Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Under the Rainbow podcast, the official podcast of the Fenton Pride Collective. This is our first episode. I'm so excited that you are here and listening to us. My name is Kai Orvis. My preferred pronouns are they, them, and I am the president of the Fenton Pride Collective. And what we do, we are a nonprofit based in Fenton, Michigan, the Fenton area, and we advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. We, host events. We're all about bringing the community together, kind of fostering a sense of unity and pride, and advocating against discrimination for the community. So that's what we do, and we do have a few other programs. As well, we were really incorporated for the purpose of hosting our Pride Night every year, which, if you don't know or aren't aware yet, it is coming up very, very soon. I think of the airing of this episode, it'll be this Thursday, June 20th, downtown Fenton. So come on out. There'll be a lot of vendors to buy some stuff from, a lot of good resources to get assistance, help if you need it, some organizations, a lot of other nonprofits will be there, kind of giving information about what they do, and we will be there, obviously. And a lot of the businesses downtown do a lot of like sales and deals and decorate. It's really fun. It's a good fun time, so make sure you come out. But how this podcast is going to work is every month on the third Monday of the month, we'll release an episode. It'll be about a different topic every month, and we'll have a new special guest, which is going to be a fun time. I'm excited for this new adventure of ours. So today's topic is the importance of pride. And with me today, I have a special guest for you all. Another member of the Fenton Pride Collective board. And I will let her introduce herself. This is Courtney.
Hi, I'm Courtney Matlock. I am the social media manager for the Fenton Pride Collective. And I've been a part of the collective now. This is my second year serving as the social media manager. Excited to be here.
Yeah. She, you weren't originally part of like the original board,
right.
But you hopped on, and we're so grateful to have you because we were struggling for social media management before.
Yeah, I was volunteered for the position, but happy to be of help.
That you were, but you're doing great. That's what matters. All right. So our topic today: why is pride important? So there's a lot that we can discuss here, but I'm just going to open it up at first with why is it important? I want to know your perspective on it.
I think pride is important for a lot of reasons. Namely, the first is just seeing, bright colors everywhere, alerting our community to safe spaces, and seeing that, there are a lot more places and people that are supportive than you think. And I think it's just really cool to see each, even locale and like cities come together and see how they each try to show our community some love, and show that, hey, there's a lot of discourse in this world surrounding our people and whether we deserve certain rights. And I think it's really great to just see the visual representation and even just the crowds come together in support of our community. Let us know that there are a lot of people who are here for us,
Absolutely. And that's so true. And you said the visibility portion of it and like seeing bright colors everywhere. And I think a lot of people like, you hear the age-old adage of the those that aren't so supportive of the LGBTQ plus community, and they, their argument's always like, well, I don't want to shove down my throat and all of this, but it's not that. It's safe spaces, like you said. It's showing, like, when you go to a business and you see they even have like a little tiny flag somewhere, you're like, oh, that's awesome,
Yeah.
and as part of the community, you're like, this is a safe space for me.
Yeah, you take a deep breath and feel like you can kind of like be yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because as like queer people, you're coming out every day to new people, and even just in discussing everyday things about your partner or what you've been up to. And
Yeah.
so it's really nice to know, like, when those words are coming out of your mouth, that they're going to be well received, or honestly not even thought twice about, which is better.
Absolutely. And it's hard, it shouldn't be that way, but a lot of the times you walk into spaces and you're like, is this okay?
Yeah.
Can I talk about my partner here and who I am, which is obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the dating world, and I know that, like, when I'm trying to plan something, I'm like researching if the place is going to be,
Oh yeah.
a safe spot to have a date with, a person of the same gender. Like,
yeah, and that's such a good point, because I don't think I would assume that a lot of people don't think that when you're straight, you have that privilege of just going where you want when you want. But you're not the only. I do that too. I mean, I can't even imagine how many other queer people in this world do that.
Yeah.
You have to, like, and then you avoid some places that are not going to be.
Yeah, and some places that are actually like really fun, but only fun if you're, being careful, unfortunately. So.
Yes, unfortunately.
So it's nice. This time of year, everyone feels like they can, show their support more visibly, and it's encouraging.
Yes, and I mean, Pride Month is obviously important for visibility and whatnot, and I really do appreciate that a lot of companies now are participating to some degree. A lot of the time, you wonder if it's just for money and if they're marketing off of the Rainbow Mafia, as we call ourselves. But I mean, it's good to see a lot of the rainbow everywhere. Yeah. I just wish it was more around the year,
Absolutely, yeah.
Because was it Pride Month when Bud Light did the thing with Dylan? Do you remember that?
I think, it was around June last year. Was it? Okay. Yeah.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
My God.
I know.
It feels like it was years ago. I don't know why.
No, it was only last year. Yeah.
Wow.
At least that's what I remember. But yeah, that was really interesting to see.
Yeah.
What discourse, just a company supporting one of their customers.
Yep.
What that caused.
Mm-hmm.
Given the rest of their core audience. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and talk about the importance of visibility and pride.
Yeah.
That's a big case in point right there. Mm-hmm. The whole Kid Rock situation, where he came out and was like, what did he, like, shoot a bunch of cans of beer or something with a gun?
Yeah, everyone was like
come
shooting
on.
there.
Get over yourself.
It's so funny too, because all these people who were shooting, Budweiser cans, whatever, in front of their like Ford and Chevy pickups. I'm like, do you understand that GM and Ford are huge advocates for the LGBTQ plus community?
Yeah.
They're huge supporters of equality. They give all of their employees, equal access to all of their benefits for their partners as well as, spouses. Like, it's fully recognized. And that was even before marriage equality. So
yeah,
it's just hilarious. You're like, okay, well, maybe do your research if you're,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Be hateful.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I never realized that. Well, maybe not never, but like until recently, until probably a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, Ford and Chevy are on the bandwagon train.
Yeah.
There was another company recently too that I was like, oh my God. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Something that I was like, oh.
I worked in auto for like 10 years now, and it's actually really incredible how many companies are very supportive. I work for Magna International, and they're actually Canadian based, but super supportive of the community. They pay for us to do a lot of fun events every year. Last year and this year, they're getting awarded some ally awards from like the Detroit LGBT Chamber. I'm going to that gala event next weekend.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a very like comfortable and open workplace. It's really nice.
Good. I was going to ask about the actual workplace itself.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure a lot of companies are like, oh, yeah, we're super supportive, but then, like, their culture in the company
Right.
is just, like, not.
Yeah.
So that's good to hear that.
No, the culture is actually incredible. I was really happy to find out. And when I first started, my friend Cody I asked about employee resource groups the day I got hired. And there is a women's employee resource group, so I joined that, and then the Pride group as well. So I joined, like, the day I hired in, I was like, oh, I'll join these.
There's a whole group for Pride?
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's company-wide. And so we get to do a bunch of, like I said, we walked in the Motor City Pride Parade yesterday. They're paying for us to go to this gala in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
That they're, like, the headlining sponsor of. So, yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Shout out to Magna.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I wish a lot more. See, other companies, take a note. Yeah. We all need to be like that.
Yeah.
Increase the visibility. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's why Pride Month is so important. And that's why you see all of these different Pride parades and festivals and stuff just increasing visibility.
Yeah.
That was a super fun time.
Yeah. Well, and I think this time of year is probably sometimes the only time that people in smaller towns like ours and even smaller, more rural areas actually get to see queer people centered in certain spaces. Even, like, just the fact that, Netflix has a Pride section that they promote their, their content, but it gives the spotlight to our community for a moment that can, really give people who feel like they're on an island a little bit of, like, oh, there are other people out there like me. It is bigger than just my tiny town lets me think it is. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right in that. And I would like to think that our tiny town is getting better because of us.
Yeah, I think so too.
And we're increasing visibility year round, but you're very right. And I think there needs to be, this is my opinion, I think there needs to be more small town prides. And I get that they're really difficult, especially in the more rural areas, but sometimes the only ones that people can go to are, like, the big ones, like Motor City Pride and Ferndale Pride and Grand Rapids, and I think visibility all over the place would be much better because
they've been cropping up more and more around us, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Some of the smaller towns are having their own little get-togethers, which is really nice.
Yeah, shout out to Holly Pride.
Yeah.
We were both there.
Yep.
So, yeah, a lot of little ones are great because, maybe they have a smaller turnout, but that's the point. Like, if you can have a smaller turnout for the 10 people that need it versus these giant festivals that, allies will come to, but sometimes it's just about having that small thing so that one queer person that's like, oh, I'm not.
Well, it can feel more accessible too, a little bit less intimidating, being
Absolutely.
Nearby and not as massive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it is a good time for a break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about. We're going to go a little bit deeper into Pride and what it means to us.
If you like listening to Under the Rainbow, the official podcast of the Fenton Pride Collective, then check out our Facebook and Instagram with the handle Fenton Pride Collective. There is where you can keep up to date with all the happenings of the Fenton Pride Collective. Don't forget to like and follow to stay involved.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Under the Rainbow podcast, the official podcast of the Fenton Pride Collective. We're here talking about the importance of pride. So, I don't know if it's really switching topics all that much, but we are going to get, I guess, a little bit more personal. And we're going to talk about when we came out and how we came out. And, so I don't know if you would like to go ahead and you can share
my story
first.
Yeah, it's a pretty recent story. I am 30 now, and I came out, I guess, 2 years ago when I was 28. It took me a really long time to realize. I think that's a huge part of our topic here today is, like, why pride is so important and visibility. I think growing up I was just like, well, that's cool, but like, couldn't be me, I guess. Like, it just wasn't. I think I knew like 2 lesbians like ever in the first 18 years of my life. So I don't know, it just never occurred to me. And I wasn't really exposed to like, yeah, I don't know, that community or that possibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never really had like a proper coming out. I didn't have to, sit my parents down and tell them. I mean, I did. I just was like, hey, um, this friend of mine, like, we're seeing each other. And they're like, oh, that was really the end of it.
Good.
But yeah, they've been pretty supportive. I know it's new for them, but they've been good. Yeah, so I never really had to have that, like,
Yeah.
in your youth when you're, feeling so uncomfortable about things. I mean, definitely have had that. I'm in therapy, and because it's a huge change like this late in life.
Sure.
And even, you feel like you're constantly coming out to like people you've known for a long time, or it's very interesting to see the difference between like how people who have only known me this way like treat me versus people who found out, later on. But yeah, I don't know. That's it. It's pretty recent, 2 years ago.
I mean, you're such a little baby gay. I love it. But no, I think it's. I had a thought that like, I don't think it's so different from being straight. Like having to come out and essentially discovering this whole new side of yourself, like you're talking about, and I mean, therapy is great for everyone. I think everyone should be in therapy, but you're really rediscovering yourself and figuring out how you fit in this world, and like, it's such a privilege to not have to go through that, and like,
yeah. Well, and it was so, I don't know, being as the age that I was and where I was in my life, I felt so much like I like really knew myself, and that I was, very comfortable as who I was. And then here's this new thing, and I'm like, what have I?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, like why didn't I notice before?
Yeah.
How is this something that I just never knew about myself? So
you're kind of like second.
Kind of rocks your trust, like the trust of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, there's so many people in the queer community, the LGBTQ plus community, that have a lot of like mental issues and like mental struggles because you don't know who you yourself is. Like, how are you gonna like go through the world and tell people who you are and stuff? It can be a tough time.
I'm kind of grateful that I was like older and more like, it's both. It's two-sided, right? Like, I'm really sad. I feel like I missed out on a lot during college, and like there's a lot, my life could have been a lot different. But I mean, no regrets. But being older, I think also I've always been a very like staunch advocate for the community regardless. So becoming a part of the community wasn't like this huge, internal battle. It was like, yeah, obviously I've always been in support. So
right.
Yeah. It felt like a natural transition, I guess. But like,
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any issues as a kid or a teenager? Like, were you bullied or at all? Did you get called names? Like, did people assume that you were part of it? No.
No. Oh, nobody knew.
That's
like,
good.
I didn't know. I've always been like a little bit more of a tomboy. I'd say like tomboy femme for sure. I love like makeup and girly stuff, but I also love like being outdoors and doing less ladylike things. But those are never, people like to associate stuff like that with sexuality, and sometimes it can be related, but sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, gender related. Sometimes it's
right.
Not related to either. Like.
Yeah.
So just for clarity, what do you identify as?
That's a good question. I've been trying to figure that out myself.
Okay.
I feel like queer is the most like
appropriate if you had to label it.
Yeah, but more and more I'm thinking probably lesbian would be my identifier, but
okay.
It's only been 2 years, so
yeah. And that's the important thing, is that you don't have to identify as anything. Labels are just there to fit people into boxes. Like, you don't.
Yeah. To me, like the label is not important to myself. It's
no.
Whoever can call me whatever, it really doesn't matter to me. I think that's a huge theme in our community. Like, it doesn't matter. Love who you want to love.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and there's always such a push to like well, what are you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, does it really matter?
No, it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't. I learned a new term. So for those of you listening that don't know, I'm a teacher and I teach in the Flint area, and there's different slang subsets for different areas, and they have a term for lesbians that I was like, what? But I can't remember what the term is now. And it's not like the D word. It's not like dyke or anything.
Yeah.
It was something totally like I would have
Well,
never
I
guessed.
wanna know.
And yeah, if I remember it, I'll have to let you know. But I can't remember. I'm sure it's someone listening is like, oh yeah, I know that term. But
I know that a lot of people identify as sapphic has been like the biggest, which we all know.
Sapphic?
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna have to teach me that one. See, I learn new ones every day. I don't know what that means.
Okay, hold on. I might have to do a little actual research to show you. But that has to do with a poet, Sappho, who was alleged to be. Everyone likes to say she was a lesbian, but she wrote poems about both genders. So potentially she was, pan, bi, whatever you want to say, queer, unless she was just writing straight stuff to appease other people. Who knows?
Huh.
But basically, it's become a term that just refers to like people who are attracted to women.
Oh, okay.
But hold on.
Interesting.
I'll read you the definition. Ooh, if my internet works out here.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna have to get on the Wi-Fi.
Okay. I can do that in a minute. But yeah, that's basically it. But she was a poet that lived this is like ancient Greece, I think.
Oh, okay, so this is pulling back.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
It had something to do with like the Isle of Lesbos, where.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like that's where.
The big old gay island.
Yep. Full of lesbians.
Full of lesbians.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. See, I mean, there's new terms every day, and I still don't know all of like the original ones.
Yeah.
I feel like. Why am I thinking stag? I feel like that's the term that my kids use. Yeah.
You're not thinking like stud.
Stud.
Okay, stud though is specific.
Is it a term that's already in use?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a new one that I learned.
Yeah. So like a stud refers to like a specific type of lesbian.
Oh really?
And it's actually a term that is reserved for people of color. And so it's like the African American and the like Latinx community. And so that refers to like a more like a masked lesbian that is of like that community generally.
So, is it derogatory then?
No, but it's just not for white people.
Interesting. See, would have never known.
Yeah. The internet, I've learned so much.
Yeah, seriously. I think I have to do more research.
I'll send you some of you should join some of the lesbian groups and you'll learn some of the.
I'm sure there's a lot of terms that I don't even know for.
Yeah. Tomboy femme that I said earlier, I actually just, because everyone likes to try and identify themselves within the, community because people are attracted to different genres of people, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I've never really felt like femme really like worked like stuck for me, but I was like definitely not like mask either.
Yeah.
But I was on the internet the other day, and that was actually the topic. Was someone was like, I were like kind of aligned with the like, so STEM is a term that people in the Latinx and Black community use to refer to someone who is like stud leaning, but also sort of femme.
Okay,
yeah,
so it's
into like
combination.
Makeup and doing their hair, but maybe dress a little bit more masculinely.
Oh wow!
So they were like, well, what's the white version of that? Basically, the Caucasian version.
Yeah.
And someone was like, yeah, I think it's like tomboy femme.
Tomboy femme.
Yeah. And
that
I was like,
makes
yeah,
sense.
that feels more like
sense.
me. Like I dress both, on the edge of both sides, but still into like having my hair done.
I feel like too, and this could be my own thought, that tomboy, the term, is more of a white term. And I could be wrong in that.
I don't know about that, but maybe.
But at least I don't see evidence of it in my students. Because my students, I'm in the Flint area, so it's majority Black students that I teach. And I don't really think that they use that term. Never noticed it a lot. Yeah, but maybe. That's all I ever talked about when I grew up.
I was referred to as a tomboy, when I was little. For a while. And then I grew up and got really into makeup and stuff.
The terms and...
Yeah. So much to learn.
So much to learn.
New info every day.
There really is. So it's interesting that you have come out later in life, and it's a different perspective, because I came out when I was really young. Well, not really, really young, but younger. I was 12, I think, at the time, so it was like 7th, 8th grade.
How'd that go?
It was an experience. I grew up in I wouldn't say more rural, but um, more conservative area for sure. I mean, there were rural parts of it, so that's probably why. But yeah, I mean, it was a struggle going through school a bit, because when you're out and you were pretty much one of very few out kids in a school, you get bullied, you get picked on.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I feel that it made me stronger and helped me as a person and me become more comfortable with who I am over the years and all of that. But it's an interesting perspective against like not having to.
Yeah.
That's why I asked, like, how was it when you were younger? Because it's like, I don't know any other way, so it would have been really, I don't know. I can't imagine growing up not getting bullied as
I
bad
was
as that is.
Plus size, so there were comments made related to that.
Yeah. No, I don't mean to insinuate that you weren't bullied.
No, I'm
everyone's
saying, like,
bullied for everything. But
different intersections everywhere, right?
Yeah.
No, that must have been difficult. Like,
it had its moments, but yeah, like, I mean, I think I grew stronger because of it, and I've been out for I don't know how many years now. Be over 15 now. So I feel like I've just like really become part. So I guess I should clarify. I came out as gay back then, but I guess I had a second coming out as non-binary like 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So that I mean, it's interesting to kind of.
Was one like better received than the other?
I think coming out as non-binary. Well, I don't know. See, that's the interesting thing, is when you come out as gay, people understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, gay people, gay men, gay women, lesbians, that sort of thing, that the binary of that has been around for decades. And that was like the original, kind of movement, right? Was the more popular movement was being gay.
Right.
So people are familiar with gayness.
Yeah.
But when it comes to gender, I think we're still learning.
Yeah.
And kind of realizing what all exists in the realm of gender beside, and how it's different it is from sexuality. So
I feel like the language is also still developing around it. Because, I mean, we
Absolutely.
all know people of all sexualities and genders have existed throughout all time.
Yeah.
But the way we're trying to bring it to light and give people, verbiage to help other people understand has kind of been new.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been terms over the years, like, terms have existed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now we're using them
Not part of the common vernacular.
Yeah. So I think coming out as, like, non-binary they were different.
Yeah.
I don't know if one was necessarily harder, but there was definitely an interesting time.
Yeah.
I mean, some people still, I guess, maybe they don't realize or know or don't think about it, but I think a lot of people just recognize me as male presenting or whatever and have trouble with that and understanding, like, non-binary.
Right. How did you, like, finally come to that realization?
That's a really good question, and I don't know if I have a really good answer for that, other than I remember sitting at the so if you're in the Fenton area, there used to be a bar, which is coming back.
I used to work there.
And Courtney did work there for a hot minute. It's called R&R, a Relief and Resource Company, and shout out, and loved that place so much. I was there multiple times a week. We'd sit at the bar, and I would drink with my friend, and we would just talk. And I remember sitting there, and we were talking. I don't know if we were talking about non-binary as a thing, or like what we identified as. I think it was more of that, like what we were talking about, our gender and sexuality, and I think we were somehow non-binary-ism came up, and I was like, I've thought about that before. maybe this is something that I identify as. And I think in that moment, it was me realizing, like, oh, there's a term for this.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I had ever really thought about it. Maybe I'd heard the term, but I never really knew what it was.
Yeah.
So we were kind of talking about it, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. So then, I did a little bit more research and kind of was like, okay, this fits the bill.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a very full circle moment about, like, how important visibility is, right? Like,
Absolutely.
Once you see other people embodying this term that now maybe resonates with you, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
I get it. Oh, yeah. Right. And I think that's the
maybe
importance of visibility.
Yeah,
right. It's, people go, oh. Huh.
There's a term for what I've been feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so important, and this is a hot topic, but it's so important with kids.
Yes.
And getting kids involved in activities or whatever,
just
exposed to what all exists under the LGBTQ plus umbrella is because it's not shoving it down their throats. No, we're not going to turn them gay. Like, it's not how it works.
Yeah, newsflash, people don't really choose to be,
not a choice.
Yeah.
Definitely not a choice. It's just who you are.
We don't choose a harder life on purpose.
No. But it's exposure so kids can go, wait a minute, that person looks like me. Or wait a minute, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I identify with that. Maybe that's what I am. Maybe there's a word for these confusing thoughts that I'm having. And I can, finally be able to say, hey, I'm this or whatever.
Yeah. I think that's really cool.
Visibility. So important.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point for another break. And then when we come back, we will talk a little bit about the history of Pride, because we haven't talked about what exactly even it is and where it came from yet.
The Fenton Pride Collective wouldn't be able to help support the LGBTQ+ community in the Fenton, Michigan area without generous contributions from people like you. We are always extremely thankful for any gift, no matter how large or small. If you'd like to support our mission, head over to our website, www.fentonpride.org, to donate or even fill out our volunteer application. Join us in fighting for progress.
Welcome back to the Under the Rainbow podcast, the official podcast of the Fenton Pride Collective. If you forgot, my name's Kai, and I'm here with Courtney. We're talking about the importance of Pride Month, all of the above. So the question I want to pose now is since we just talked about coming out and just kind of the importance of that, when did you realize the importance of LGBTQ plus visibility?
That's a great question. So, as we've covered, I'm a very much late in lifer, but I've always been an advocate for the community, a strong ally. But I do remember from a very young age just being very confused as to why people were concerned, honestly, with who people loved or how they expressed their gender. Especially growing up in a rural and a little bit more conservative area where people claim that personal freedom is the most important thing. And that's the reason this country was founded, was personal freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting to hear that going on in the background, and then people being very concerned with what people do with their lives that has nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just felt like I didn't have a lot of exposure to the LGBTQ plus community as I was younger, but then when I went away to college, my first summer before college, I was visiting schools. I went to visit a school in New York City with my mom, and this was in 2011, and it turned out to be the weekend that marriage equality was legalized in New York. This was 2011.
Yeah.
So we went to see the school, but then the rest of the time we were in town, literally everywhere, every restaurant was packed with couples with just married sashes and people in wedding dresses or suits, and it was just, the energy was so palpable, and it was so beautiful to see how happy everybody was. There were couples that had been together for like 50 years that finally got to like make it official.
Yeah.
And I was like stopping everyone, like walking by their table and like, how have you been together? Like, what happened? But it was just so palpable, the like excitement and the happiness and like kind of the sigh of relief almost, you know, like,
oh yeah,
finally, like,
oh yeah, I'm sure the vibe was immaculate. I'm sure it was just like,
yeah, it was
amazing, yeah, freedom finally.
Yeah. And then I went away to school. I went to school for fashion design, so a lot of queer people in that realm. And a lot of my closest friends were part of the LGBT community, and so I was really involved in all the events that they were involved in. But and got to know, even, you know, moved out of my small town, and that was where I had made my first like transgender friends and really like learned and understood. And, you know, college is such a time of self-exploration and discovery. And so watching a few of my friends go from the confusion stage to like fully transitioning in those few years, it was just so honestly beautiful that they had that like safe space in which to do that, because Kalamazoo is a really very cool, like affirming place. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
we love Kalamazoo.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. So yeah, I don't know, it was really nice to see that like not everybody has the same opinions as where you came from, you know.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Yeah.
So you had friends that were part of, you know, when you weren't out yet, part of the community. So you think that had an influence on your perception of the importance of visibility then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always been a very like empathetic person regardless. So seeing people being, you know, I don't know, persecuted for just being themselves. You're what the hell is going on here? Like, why would that ever? Yeah,
this is so wrong.
I did even witness. I mean, we spent most of our time in pretty inclusive spaces in school, but I did hear all the stories of some of my closest friends, and hearing that, you know, they grew up in the church and they were really a faithful person, but when they came out, you know, they were basically ostracized from that group and told that they were wrong, and still even were battling internally with thoughts about that. And it was just really painful to witness people you love going through stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Remind me of when your birthday is again.
October 24th.
Okay. What's your sign then?
I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like second day of Scorpio.
Oh, wow. So kind of a little bit cusp, right?
Libra cusp.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was just thinking that empath is like, I'm a Cancer.
Yeah, well, I'm a triple water sign, so my big three are.
That's okay. That's
Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's why I was gonna say because I'm a Cancer and empathy's a huge thing of water signs.
Yeah.
And I'm like through and through Cancer. I think my first 3 are all Cancer, which is crazy. But yeah, I think my kind of, I guess when I realized the importance of visibility it's kind of the same situation, but for myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I was younger, and I guess before I came out, I had not really thought about it. Like you don't. Well, I didn't. Not at a young age. I don't think I was exposed. Talk about visibility. I wasn't exposed to like any LGBTQ plus people prior to coming out. Maybe a few here and there, but like it wasn't, you know, like I don't think I had seen any drag queens or like, you know, I don't even know if RuPaul was out back then. Probably, but I didn't watch it. I wasn't allowed to watch it.
He was, but like you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think just like finally being like, oh, you know, I'm gay. I'm realizing that I'm gay, and then being like not seeing people like me, unless it was like on the internet or whatever. I was like, oh, well, you know, it's important to see people that are like you, so you can realize, you know, that you're with other people, and there's a whole community and stuff. So I think that's kind of when I realized, oh, this is kind of important.
Yeah.
So that's when I started getting into like Well, what are the other ways that there's visibility increased, and that's when I started learning about prides and all of that. I watched a lot of. Actually, I think this might have been before it came out. And side story, which is actually kind of cool. I watched a lot of Brooke Knows Best. Did you ever watch that show?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, it was Hulk Hogan's daughter.
Wait, no, I did watch all of that. Yeah.
Brooke Hogan.
Yeah.
And I think she had like a gay best friend situation. Mm-hmm. And I think this is before it came out. And I watched a lot of Playboy, which is really weird for like an adolescent to be watching. What was that show? It was a show about
the mansion.
About the mansion,
right? Yeah.
With Holly and Kendra and all of them. And Holly had a gay best friend too. So it was like this weird time of like everybody popular on TV that were female had like gay best friends.
Yeah.
And that kind of increased my visibility. But side story to that, I actually met Brooke Hogan one day.
Oh, very cool.
In Brighton. Yeah.
Bizarre. Yeah.
She was dating at the time. I don't think they're dating anymore, but she was dating the owner of one of the bars downtown.
Okay.
And my friend and I had gone there, and we were just like hanging out. And my friend looked over and was like, "Is that Brooke Hogan?" And I looked over and I was like, "That's Brooke Hogan." Like, undoubtedly, I watched enough of Brooke Knows Best.
I know what she looks like.
That is, I swear to God, her. And we were like, "Is it? Is it?" And we were like, "What is she doing in Brighton of all places?" So I went over to her and I was like, "Are you Brooke Hogan?" Well, actually, the thing I said was, "You probably get this a lot because you look just like her, but are you Brooke Hogan?" And she was like, "Yes, I'm Brooke Hogan." And I was like, "Oh my God! I watched you so much. You had such an influence on my childhood." So yeah, I don't know. I think that's when I realized that the importance was, I guess, just being who I was, realizing who I was, and then seeing all of it.
Yeah. And do you feel like media is a decent, it's not the best, but like it definitely is a substitute for not seeing it in, real life? It's like a little bit of affirmation, a small amount at a time, like just seeing that representation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think media is so big, especially now.
Yeah.
Like, it was bigger. I mean, TV was big when we were younger, right? Like, that was the big thing.
TV. Yeah.
Reality TV. We didn't have TikTok yet. YouTube wasn't really a thing. But, as we've gained these different mediums, I think it's so important to have visibility, especially on the, like, TikTok, which is why TikTok is such a great place.
I think TikTok's a huge portion of my, like, self-discovery, honestly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting. I had TV, you had TikTok.
Right? Those algorithms, they just start.
They just
They just tell you about yourself.
Which is why it's so important that TikTok can't get banned. And
true.
Because the exposure on that app is just, like, insane.
Yeah.
I've learned so many things, not only about just everyday things, but, like, the queer community and the LGBTQ+ community. Different terms, what it's like from different perspectives.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of non-binary people just to see what other non-binary people live like. Because, like, in our community, I don't know that I can name... Oh, no, I can. There's someone on our board. But besides that person, I don't really know anybody else that's like that.
I know a few other local people,
Oh, well, I'd love to meet them.
Yeah.
We need our own support group here.
For real.
But it's so, I mean, media plays such a big part into not only, like, us, our age group, but, like, again, kids, younger people realizing who they are, coming of age, and, having that exposure is so important.
Yeah, it's just like, how can you know to ask the questions if you don't even know, what the possibilities are, if you have no idea. Growing up, I know, like, in such a small area, you're constantly learning, like, new terms. When I was at Western, there was this, like, huge event put on by one of the pride groups, and it was literally just kind of a description of, like, terminology and what it meant. And, like, I specifically remember that's where I learned the term cisgender. I had no idea.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That's so great that there's a term that isn't normal people. Like, no one wants to hear
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
are you not normal? Like, come on.
Cis has kind of grown in popularity recently.
Yeah, I mean,
past
that was
couple
probably
years.
like 2012, so.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, I had never really heard it until like 5-10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a thought, but I lost it. I feel like that happens way too often.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking about pride and the importance of pride and all of that, but we haven't really talked about what pride is yet and where it came from. So, I'm going to ask you, do you know, what do you know? What do you know?
What do I know?
I mean, you probably know, I'm going to say that you probably know more than the layman's. Is that the term, person?
Layperson.
Layperson? Oh, yeah, because, that is gendered. Layperson's knowledge of the subject, because you are in the community. But tell me what you know.
Well, I do know that there's actually a lot of false information around the original that we all like to think of, the Stonewall riot / event, where they talk about, throwing the first brick and whatnot. I have to find the podcast somewhere, but I was listening to one with like a queer historian who was talking about how there was no brick, apparently. So I'd have to go.
I feel like I saw that somewhere.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of just symbolic, right? Like, regardless, it's still, Marsha P. Johnson was still one of the, first people there. And she was, one of the original, like, well-known people to have a different gender identity than, normal that they thought then, cisgendered people. And to get that notoriety and the fame of kind of starting that movement, that was kind of like, hey, you guys have to stop picking on us. Like, we're not just going to lie down and take it.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And that's why it was so important at the time.
Yep.
It's because, I mean, this was 1969. I always remember that because 69. And, it was part of the civil rights movement. And the Rainbow Mafia was getting walked all over. And they were like, we're done with this.
Yeah.
We are here. We're queer. We belong to be here. Or we belong here. We're going to stand up.
We have every right to live our lives and not be, over-policed because of that.
Right.
I do know part of it as well. The Stonewall Inn was a bar, right?
Yeah.
And especially back in the 60s and before, nightlife was like a place where queer people found like safe haven and safety, or these bars that would eventually get raided because they were found out to be mainly queer spaces. And but they were like, those were the safe havens and they were being over policed, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Was like, hey, we're trying to just have our own space here, not, involving everybody else like you want us to.
Yep.
And you won't even let us have that. So.
No, yeah. And they're still important. Nightlife is still important today.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of people, maybe it's the under the cover of darkness situation. Feel more accepted in those places.
Yeah. You just feel like you can kind of like take a deep breath and actually be yourself.
Yeah. Which is, important. To be themselves and feel themselves. So it all started, if you aren't aware, if you're a listener and you aren't aware, it all started with the Stonewall riots of 1969. Is really what kind of cemented Pride Month and why we celebrate it in June, right? Because it happened in June. I don't know. Do you know the day that it happened in June? Okay, I don't either. But it happened in June, and that's why Pride Month is in June. And it's really just to, one, increase the visibility. That's super important.
Yeah.
But two, to celebrate and to, I guess, recognize.
Yeah.
Recognize the struggle and the people that made it possible to be where we're at today.
Yeah.
With acceptance and of the queer community and all of that.
And I feel like over time it's definitely changed meanings, at least, and different topics were like more important. And I felt like it just kept like escalating and just kind of building this mountain of why it's so important. But
Yes.
like during the AIDS epidemic, it was more a riot again, maybe a protest about these people being left behind by especially our government, but most of society. And it's really beautiful to see how it's evolved into now. It seems a lot more like a celebration, but we're still there's still some struggles.
Yeah.
But we take it as a time to celebrate too, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you're right. It's more, I think, more of a celebration now than it was in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It was definitely more of a, we're pushing for equal rights and freedoms that we should have.
Yeah.
But now that there are some states where
the topics are
they're still fighting.
Yeah.
But
not in Michigan.
Not
Thank you,
Michigan.
Big Gretch. We love you.
Yes, thank you, Big Gretch. We are such big supporters of you. Not in Michigan. We have we're good here.
Yeah.
For now. Let's hope in the future that we are after 2026. Because that's when our next gubernatorial election is, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah.
Well, hopefully at least Gretch she'll be prepping to run for president, I hope so.
That's what the rumors around the state are.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll see her on the ballot in 28. And then America will be set. Really.
Yeah.
We won't have these Texas and Florida situations. I'm sorry to anybody that lives in those states, in the southern states, that identifies as part of the community. But that's why, again, visibility is super important and pride is super important, especially in those areas where they're having issues like this. I mean, what was the number up to the other day? I saw 516 anti-LGBTQ plus bills that have been, I don't know, enacted, but introduced into legislation.
Which is concerning enough that people are also spending our money and time, the public's time, on trying to police people for just living their lives while we have, unhoused children and we have bigger problems. Things we should actually care about.
Yeah. Big full circle moment back to your comment on personal freedoms at the beginning when you said that people have to have their personal freedom. Well, what about our personal freedoms?
Yeah.
Being able to live the way you are meant to live and have the same human rights as everybody else is definitely part of personal freedom, and having the personal freedom to love who you love and be who you want to be is very important for us as well. So why can't we get that?
I feel like we could do an entire episode on like how our lives and identities have been over-sexualized and weaponized as somehow a danger to children, and how unfortunately like sexuality becomes about sex rather than about just who you're going to end up with forever. That
is a really good idea for an episode. I do have an episode on sexuality versus gender planned, so maybe that would be part of that, or we can just have a whole separate episode on it, because that's so true and so prevalent.
Because that is the main argument that's being used against our community.
Anything,
and it's so sad and unfortunate that the two ideas are being posed next to each other, because one has nothing to do with the other.
And since when have drag queens been like the leaders of indoctrination for children?
Childhood education.
When did that happen, and why? And this is why pride is so important.
It is.
And education, educating the public. But so part of I always want to educate people, and part of this podcast is education, and part of what we do as FPC, Fenton Pride Collective, is education. But just like anything else, you can try and educate people, but they're only willing to hear so much.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You can tell, the staunch Republicans or whatever, till you're facing blue in the face about what it means and what, offer your perspective. But if they're not willing to hear that and listen.
Yeah. I do feel like, though, to be a little bit more optimistic about it, that there generally there's some common thread between all of us, right?
Yeah.
And generally, if you can keep your head and keep your head straight and keep digging, usually you can find a little something to pull on that makes people like, oh,
that's true.
That makes sense.
That is true. And thank you for
it just takes a lot of work to get there. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah. I'm over here just being my pessimistic self, and you're like, well, wait a minute.
Also,
no,
if we get this whole separation of church and state nonsense settled, I think we'd have a lot less issue.
That is a good point. Yeah, that's true. And I don't know if we'll ever get there because
it's in our Constitution.
Yeah, I'd love to twist the words of our founding fathers, left and right.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's one last segment that I am going to incorporate for us. Do you have any remaining thoughts on the importance of pride before we do that?
No. Aside from I love June, I love Pride Month, and it's so much fun. I feel like there's always exciting stuff going on, and it's just so uplifting and empowering to like be in all of these spaces with everyone just like celebrating and having a great time and very proudly being who they are.
Yes, love that. And it's true. I agree. June's my favorite month, of course.
What's your birthday?
What?
It's your birthday too, right?
July.
I'm
8th.
sorry. July 8th.
Close. I'm close to June.
Close.
No. It's just right before. That's what, but I mean, that's how I like it.
Yeah. With
exactly.
Celebration.
That's why I like it. I get to party for like a month and then party a little bit more and then.
Perfect.
And then it's over. So this segment I'm calling Fact or Fiction.
Oh.
And the idea is I have 3 statements and you have to guess whether they are fact or fiction. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. So the first one is, the first country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage was Canada. Is that fact or fiction?
I'm going to say fiction.
Okay.
I'm guessing somewhere in Europe.
You're too good. Well, I don't know if it's technically Europe. But yes, it was fiction. It wasn't Canada. It was the Netherlands.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
Netherlands in April 1st of 2001, actually. Isn't that crazy? No, it's only 23. Yeah, that kind of surprised me. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, second one. The original Pride flag contained hot pink and turquoise.
Fiction.
Nope. Oh. It's fact. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
So the original Pride flag, I should have put down the name. I didn't put the name of the guy that made it.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually made it because Harvey Milk was leading, I guess, this kind of like the social movement, the original social movement. And he wanted a flag to represent the community.
Yeah.
So the guy that made it came up with the rainbow. They actually, did you know also, as part of this little caveat, that each of the colors represents a different thing?
I did know that.
Okay. So, do you know what they are?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot, so it's hard to remember them all. I
only know the new editions because they're like the colors make sense for what they represent. But
yeah. But so the original like rainbow, red means vitality, orange means healing, yellow means sunlight, green means nature, indigo means harmony, and violet means spirit. But the original LGBTQ plus pride flag had hot pink, which meant sexuality, and turquoise, which meant magic or art, depending on the source.
Very cool.
But they opted not to include those because something about the balance of it.
Yeah.
And it was harder to print the 8 colors versus the 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, and I didn't know that. I was like, whoa. Okay, and now are you ready for the last one?
Yes.
This one is kind of, a little off topic, but I also had to include it. You'll see. The TV show with the longest running queer character is Queer as Folk. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Okay. You're right.
Wasn't it Will and Grace?
No.
Oh.
That's a good one. I should have done that instead of Queer as Folk. I just figured Queer as Folk.
Yeah.
Because people know that as a gay show
Right.
or whatever. No.
What is
it? It is Grey's Anatomy.
Oh. Yeah. Is it Callie and...
Yeah. Dr. Callie Torres was on 11 seasons, which was 239 episodes.
Yes.
And she... I love that you watch. Do you watch Grey's? Are you current with Grey's?
No, but I very much remember
okay. Yeah.
the first episode that,
Talk about media having an impact on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I loved her as a character. She's not on anymore, which sucks, but...
I can't believe that show is still on.
I know. And I think that's more of why it was the longest running queer character, just because the show is like the longest running show ever, pretty much.
Yeah. Did you know that that actress, Sara, I don't know the last name.
Ramirez, I think?
Ramirez, yeah, is non-binary.
Yes, I did know that, actually. Yeah. I forgot that, so thank you for reminding me. Yeah. Yes. I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, that's really cool. That was fun. I'm glad I learned something.
Good. I thought that was a cool little, little thing to have.
Yeah, it's fun.
Gotta have different segments, right? Keep it interesting. Thank you for listening, for listening to us babble on for far too long, but to the Under the Rainbow podcast. My name is Kai Orvis, and this is Courtney.
Yes, thank you for listening to our first podcast. This is so exciting. Thanks for having me on as the first guest.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks. This has been really fun. I just want to let everyone know to follow us on our socials. We're Fenton Pride Collective on Instagram and on Facebook. Working on a TikTok. And we have a bunch of fun events that we do monthly. So we have a Pride Book Club that is the second Tuesday of every month. So next month will be in July. We're doing RuPaul's memoir, so that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
And then every third Thursday at 7 p.m. we have a social meetup at Fenton Brewery. So coming out, we'd love to see you.
Yes, please join us. Let us indoctrinate you. No, it's a good place to come out and hang out if you're part of the LGBT+ community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And follow us. Go to our website, fentonpride.org.
Yep.
If you want to learn about anything else that we do.
Yeah.
We'll
see us at Pride.
Oh,
June 20th, we'll be there.
Pride night,
it is 5:30 to
5 to 8:30.
5 to 8:30 in downtown Fenton. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a free event. It's not ticketed, so coming out, we'll have some freebies and some fun games.
Yeah.
Raising some money for some cool charities and just having a good time in general.
Yeah, come out, hang out, meet some new great people, and get involved in your community if you want to do that. But until next episode, this has been Grand. This is the Under the Rainbow podcast, the official podcast of the Fenton Pride Collective. I'm Kai Orvis. This is Courtney. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks.
If you have a business or organization and would like to advertise on Under the Rainbow, the official podcast of the Fenton Pride Collective, then go to our website, fentonpride.org, and fill out the application under the podcast tab. We have different options to suit your budget and needs. It's a great way to expand your customer base. One last thing before we go, the legal stuff. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, financial, or educational advice. The individual views expressed in this podcast may not reflect or represent those of the Fenton Pride Collective. Unless stated otherwise, Fenton Pride Collective does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast.